Hello, folks, and welcome back to our series on the fruit of the Spirit. We're up to the fourth week now. The fruit of the Spirit, says the letter to the Galatians, is love, joy, peace, patience. So we're up to patience. This week in our church, it's a Communion Sunday, so I'm going to make some reference to communion in this message, but I think it works for you whether or not you're having anything to do with communion at any given time. So let's get into this week's story. This week's story begins from the Gospel of John, the 20th chapter. This is after the resurrection of Jesus, and Jesus meets his friends on the beach some morning. They have some breakfast. Jesus has a discussion of a certain kind with his friend Peter. And this is what it says. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Truly, truly I say to you, when you were young, you girded yourself and walked where you would. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will gird you and carry you where you do not wish to go." This he said to show by what death he was to glorify God. And after this, Jesus said to Peter, "Follow me." Beloved friends, in olden days, back when I was in a youth choir at home, one of my favorite songs to sing was a song called "Bold Peter." This is how it went. Bold Peter denied his Lord. Bold Peter denied his Lord. Bold Peter denied. Oh, yes, he lied, lied, lied. Bold Peter denied his Lord. I can almost feel the whiff of self-righteous censoriousness even now. Naughty you, Peter, you bad guy. I would never have done that. Ha! Right. It's fun to sing, but is that how it actually happened? He clearly didn't do what Judas had done. He didn't betray his Lord in that way. He wasn't buddy-buddy with the Roman soldiers. I mean, goodness, he cut off the ear of one of the guys. There were those three conversations that this song refers to, but what were they? Someone said, "Aren't you one of Jesus' guys?" He said, "I am not." "Wait, aren't you a disciple?" "Not me." "But didn't I see you in the garden with him?" "Must have been someone else." You see who Peter is denying here? On the one hand, he denies association with Jesus, but he says, "I am not this." And the next person says, "Are you this?" And he says, "No." The one great cause in his life, the one transforming passion for Peter, the one way that he was going to become all that he was meant to be was in following Jesus, was in being Jesus' friend, and that's what he denied. That's what he denied. He denied that he was Peter. He denied that he was the shepherd who would care for the flock. He denied that he would be the one rock on which Jesus would build his church. Peter denied his Lord. Perhaps. Yes, there's truth in that. But might the deeper truth be that Peter denied himself, in this sense, that he denied who he was. Who he was. You know the story. 3 times he denied that he was a follower of Jesus. And then the rooster crowed. And so when Jesus asks him 3 times, do you love me? Sure, they correspond to the 3 times Peter denied that he denied his true self. That he denied his true self. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke all tell us that when Peter heard the rooster crow, he wept bitterly, wept because he had canceled himself. He had become what? The great thing in his life was to be a follower of Jesus, and he said, no, I'm not that anymore. Not surprising. After Jesus died, he said, I'm just going to go back and go fishing. But you see, he had given into his false self, given into this protective facade, a defensive trick that he played every so often. He played this trick every so often to hide from becoming, to hide from becoming Peter, from becoming the Peter that God made him to be. This, I think, is what called out Jesus' long suffering, his patience, but I really think that long suffering is a better word. The King James Version word is better. Jesus remains with Peter, abides with him, walks with him, long suffers with him, goes through these agonizing questions with him as long as it takes. As long as it takes. 3 times Peter denied who he was, a follower, a friend, a disciple of Jesus. 3 times he denied his own identity. And 3 times Jesus says, you know, Peter, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to operate out of desperation. You are worthy of love. You are capable of loving the ones who love me. You are Peter. You are a rock. And at the end, then, Jesus says, once again, he restores him to where he'd been a few years past. And he says to him again, all right then, follow me. Follow me. We can do this together. This is what the fruit of the Spirit looks like. The result of the Spirit in our lives. It looks like being patient enough, long-suffering enough, first with yourself, to allow yourself to emerge from your false self, from your protective shell, to become who God calls you to be be good enough without worrying about being perfect. It looks like worrying less about some artificially constructed list of naughtiness and concentrating more on what keeps you from being the you that God made you to be and become. Long-suffering means dropping the habit of denying your true self and faking it. Friends, be patient with yourselves, with all depth of conviction, and with Christ who encountered Peter standing behind me. I say to you today, you be you. And to be fair, the fruit of the Spirit also has much to do with long-suffering with others as they walk the same journey you're walking. The journey of trying to become who God is calling them to become. Who in your life this day, who needs God's patience and yours? Who needs you to stick with them? Needs you to do what Jesus did. Ask questions. Ask open questions. Not judge them or advise them or critique them, but walk alongside them and ask questions. Who needs you to listen so deeply that you go beyond the intellectual emphasis of sympathy and enter the emotional vortex of empathy? Who is calling you today to say, as Jesus said, more or less? Well, all right then. Let's be friends. Let's be friends. Being patient, being long-suffering, hanging in there with yourself, slogging through with the one person who needs you, or maybe more than one. This isn't just about being a decent, virtuous person. It's the fruit of the Spirit. It's God. It's God at work in you. Well, let's remember that as we come to the Lord's table. Remember that this table bears witness to us before our eyes, bears witness that God is long-suffering with us. It's still there. The table is still there. God is still with you. The table is ready, and it's set for you still now, after all these years. Can you hear what Jesus is asking today? Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Then become yourself. Come. Let's eat. Amen. The fruit of the Spirit next week is kindness. And couldn't we all use a bit more of that? I'll see you next week. God bless.